Hey everyone, it's me again, Jaychrist, and welcome to another episode of the Design Life Show. In this episode, I'm just solo, so I'm the only one who will be talking some topics that I find really interesting, especially right now. And I think this is really timely for those who are staying at home, listening to the podcast. And by the way, thank you for all the great message and feedback about the podcast. Thank you so much, guys, especially for my subscribers and listeners out there. Thank you, guys. And yeah, so going back in this episode, I'm going to talk about how to deal with anxiety and overthinking. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that you might want to try, or maybe make you more productive and minimize your overthinking. So yeah, next one, I'm also going to talk about how to keep your sanity with economic crisis that is happening right now. And by the way, I'm not a medical expert, or I'm not an economist, right? So but I'm just a human being. I'm really try to be empathetic as much as I can, and I think this is a natural ability or characteristic as a Filipino, and I'm really proud of that. And I think before this crisis, or this COVID-19 or coronavirus happened, a lot of businesses and creatives are struggling, right? And even worse because of this freaking virus. So I'm going to give you some meaningful advice about that. And I think the next one would be the importance of reframing the mind. And it's really connected with this too: how to deal with anxiety and overthinking, and how to keep your sanity with this ongoing crisis. And I think one of the important part that you need to know if you're trying to grow more or create more, and get your market share in the field you are doing, or in the field you are practicing, whatever: design, marketing, sales, or other relevant skills in the innovation and creative field. So for me, it's really important to reframe your mind and to really have that awareness when you are progressing, or you are not progressing. So I think that's really interesting for me to talk about. And the last one would be why we are now entering the Essentialist era. So I need to do that to have some cinematic effect. So yeah, why we are now entering the Essentialist era. So I'm trying to give you some perspective about that. And with all of these things that are happening, we're just going to go back to the basic or fundamentals. So yeah, I'll try to explain that a little bit more and discuss that for a few minutes. So for now, let's play the intro. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode. You're listening to the Design Life Show, a podcast that's helping everyone grow to live a meaningful and creative life. It's me, Jaychrist, a designer from the Philippines, best known for being an advocate of essentialism and optimism. I'm sitting down with awesome people to talk about their journey, their process, and the lessons they've learned along the way. And we're back, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in into the Thank you so much for tuning in into the podcast. So sorry for stuttering again, and I hope you're still listening. With that said, We're going to talk about some few topics here that I found really interesting. Just to recap, I'm going to talk about how to deal with anxiety and overthinking. So without further ado, let's do this one first and give you some advice on how to deal with anxiety, and this, especially to this time or to this stuff that are happening with the COVID-19, which I think really affect, which I think not only our business or our professional works or productivity, and even our mind. So I've been talking to a lot of human beings and great entrepreneurs and creatives, and one thing that I really find interesting on how they deal with anxiety and overthinking is that, are you ready? They are taking action. So think about that a little bit. But don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of people are trying to overcome this one, and including me before. I'm really struggling with anxiety and overthinking on what are they are thinking about me, or am I too loud, or am I too mean to talk about these shits that I'm talking about here in the podcast. And that really affects how I deal with people and how I deal with my life, right? So, and especially how I design my day to be, if you want to be really productive when you're dealing or when you're trying to overcome anxiety and overthinking, you don't have that power, or you don't have enough guts to do all these things, right? So it's like giving you some, it's like someone is pulling your leg back to the room when you're trying to go out and explore the world, right? So imagine that. So that's how I kind of see this this problem, this anxiety and overthinking. And I know there's a lot of people out there that also trying to overcome this. And one thing that I'm going to say to you, if you're listening to the podcast, is you're not the only one who are trying to overcome this one. And there's a lot of people, and even successful people has this anxiety and overthinking sometimes, right? So even though there's a lot of great stuff that they are doing, there's a lot of great works that they are putting out there, sometimes there's always this voice that saying to you that, what if, all the buts and ifs and all the problem you are thinking, although it's not yet happening, right? So it's like you're drawing some problem, right? Or just creating a problem that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? On dealing that, so this is how I deal this guy. And I'm going to share it, my personal experience, and I'm not going to say that I can speak to everyone, right? So we have different scenarios right now, we have different problems, we have different progress in life. But one thing that I know on dealing with anxiety and overthinking is to really act and take action, right? So if you're shy to hit that publish button because you think that your writing sucks, just publish it. And then when someone you know, or who you know that really cared enough or truly care with your journey and genuinely can give you some advice, or non-bullshit advice about your works, then you can edit it, right? So it's simple, right? Those simple things, we create problems that doesn't exist because we haven't act or take action. So on dealing with that, again, you need to take action. And I'll give you some scenarios about it, or some stories that I have right now. And yeah, I think you know that I've been a designer, an in-house designer, respective BPO company, and we provide graphics and web design services. On that, I'm one of the luckily one of the pioneer and been part of the or managing positions on that. But in that particular timeline, I decided to quit that job and go freelancing and try to create my own works and grow more as an individual, as a personal brand. So, but I'm not going to say that if you're doing your job right now, or if you have a job, or if you are in the corporate world, I'm not saying that it's bad, right? So, as long as you're happy with your work, right? As long as you are keen with your things, right? Or interested with the things you are doing, just go at it, right? So, bloom at it and become better version of yourself on that. And I'm happy for you for that. And but my situation back then, I find it really stressful, stretched too thin. I'm super stressed with traffic and all of this stuff. So I decided to create my brand and personal brand, and that is 5 years or 6 years ago. And this podcast is something that I've been trying to create for the past 10 years. And no, I think past 6 years or 7 years, right? So with all that planning, I haven't take action on it. So after hearing some advice from consultants, from other creatives that I've been talked to, one thing that I've really, opened my mind is to really just take action and just do it. Just freaking do it. And I'll try to be the best version of myself every work that I'm doing, right? So it's like a compounding interest, right? So be 1% of be better 1% every day, and then you'll be better 365% for a year, right? So something like that. Or just if you ditch the weekend. So I hear this from a great leader as well. So if you ditch the weekends and just minus it to the 365 days, right? So you do the math. And yeah, actually that's it. To deal with anxiety and overthinking, just take action and really find that one person who genuinely care with your journey and can give you non-bullshits advice, right? I repeat, non-bullshits advice, right? So they are going to give you some, maybe they will going to torment you, right? Or maybe or in other words, tortured you with the way they give you advice or criticize you. And I mean, that's the way it is, right? So you need to be resilient about it. And it's more worse if you haven't experienced that, and then you go to the real world, right? So when you go out to the real world, it's even worser than that, right? So imagine that you're a college student, and you've never experienced the hardship of not having enough money to go to school or to build a project, right? So which I pretty much experienced back then. When I go out to the real world, it's pretty easy to me, because these things are kind of similar to the situations back then, and it makes me become better version of myself, which is really great, and I'm really grateful for that. And it's basically those things that I planted before, right? It's gaining now, and it's I obtaining more relevancy within terms to my content and within terms to my expertise and authority. So and To sum it up, again, first one, you really need to take action. Second one, find someone who is genuinely who can genuinely care with your journey. And the last one, again, someone who can give you a non-bullshit advice and proven, strategies or things that you need to do when it comes to creating real work or better works for your let's say for your job or for your business, right? So yeah, that's it. So the next one would be how to keep your sanity with this economic crisis that are happening now as a creative, right? So I've been a creative entrepreneur for the past 5 years, and I'll tell you one thing. To be honest, it's not as simple as it is, right? So it's not like a movie with the intro, climax, and ending, something like that. If you are creative and you want to really keep up with your industry, you have an intro, right? So you have to introduce yourself and create awareness about your brand, personal brand, and the climax. Maybe you're on top of your career now, which is great, right? And then, but in real world, like in compared to the movie, there's no ending. So yeah, there's no ending in this one, guys. So I've read a book called The Infinite Mindset by Simon Sinek, so which pretty much explained this whole perspective that I'm trying to live by or trying to apply with all my works and with all my work ethics and be more with all my products and services. So like what I've said in the movie, so just to compare it again, in the movie there's an intro, climax, and then ending, right? So when you're in the creative entrepreneurship, there's an intro or creating awareness, marketing, right? So there's a climax. Maybe you can now sell yourself, right? So not selling yourself short, right? So I don't encourage that, right? So, and maybe you are now on the climax of your career, right? So you are now really, really productive. You have that momentum, and you are changing others' lives as well. But compared to movie, there's no ending, right? So I've learned the infinite mindset on the book by Simon Sinek, which is really, really good. If you haven't checked that out, there's a free chapter on it. You can check that out. I don't know if that's still up, but if you can buy the book or if you can buy the digital but I prepared the physical one, right? So if you can buy the physical one, then go buy it. That's really, really a great book. And I'm not affiliated with Simon Sinek. I'm just really, really fascinated about his work. So, and he's on top of my list to be on the podcast, including Chris Du and Greg McCone, the author of the book Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less, right? So those guys that I'm trying to get on the podcast, which I'm pretty sure that will happen, right? So I'm not just claiming it that easy, right? So yeah, that's it, right? So just to give you some perspective on how to keep your sanity, you have to that mindset, the infinite mindset, like what I've said, to keep your sanity with this economic crisis that are happening right now. And to be honest, the crisis or the economic, economically, as a Filipino, as living in the developing country, there's a lot of struggles. I don't know with other countries. I'm not really familiar with it, but living in a developing country, there's a lot of struggles and challenges that you need to overcome, right? So, and at my early age or at my early stage, I try to inspire myself or motivate myself internally to really just get my shits done and get my shits extra better, right? So because I'm not trying to complain about the government or whatever. I don't want to. I even don't want to talk about politics in the podcast. But again, it's been hard, right? So I think there's no easy things in this world, right? Even if you're in the position of, even if you have, if you have the greatest job of all compared to other people, and maybe it's hard to maintain that, right? So it's not even easy, right? If you think about that for a while, having that mindset to keep your sanity is really, really important and powerful. And I'm really really digging into that kind of stuff, and really highly encourage you guys to be on top of your mindset when in terms to keeping your sanity, right? So another thing is, second one would be making yourself less distracted, right? So we'll go into the fundamentals again, right, guys? So I previously created the content about social media, distancing, and creating opportunities. If you haven't watched that, you can go to I think I posted that on my IGTV and Facebook. So one thing that I'm sure that a lot of people are doing is to be really optimistic, which is not bad, right? So it's really great. But sometimes awareness really changed the game. So if you want to make yourself less distracted, you have to have your workflow, right? So, and to have a workflow, you have to be aware about the things you want to achieve, right? What's your purpose? What's your big why? What's your passion, right? And for me, I'm trying to create more meaningful contents and provide that to the community and help others with my journey, or some people that are with the level of my journey. So I'm trying to help them as well to gain more freedom, to gain more financial freedom, or to gain more creative freedom. So it's really powerful for me when I found out that okay, I need to be aware about my purpose and how can I use that into something impactful. All right. So again, just to summarize, or just to talk about it again, first thing would be to have an infinite mindset, right? Again, number one would be having an infinite mindset, and then number two, having some awareness, or to make yourself less distracted, right? So having a workflow, let's say, for example, right? So you're eating your lunch, but you're keep looking at your email, looking at your inbox, right? So you have to ditch that habit, and I ditched that few years now, and it's really, really changed my my focus and really changed my life, because it's, I have control now, right? Let's say 5 a.m. I'll going to read my email, and no buts, no ifs. After that, I'll go ahead and do my stuff, right? Do my other stuff that I needed to do for the day. So that's it, right? It's really, really simple as it might sound, but at first it would really hard to create that habit. But try it for 30 days. Try it, guys. And I personally believe that when you try a habit for 30 days, you'll find out if that stick or not, right? If it stick, good for you. So just keep going, right? Keep at it. But if not, then maybe find a way to gain that or obtain that habit, good habit again. All right? Figure it out. I know you'll figure it out. You're a smart human being, right? So the last one, or the third one. So again, first one would be having an infinite mindset, and second one would be to make yourself less distracted, right? And having a workflow, or having some workflow and good habits, all right? And the last one, which I'm pretty much sure you are familiar with, is talking to the right people, So I think I just need to give you some example with it, right? So there's a lot of people are saying that surround yourself with positive people. Maybe not this time. I don't want to surround myself with positive people. Joking, but I think we need to have the chance to think about that. You need to talk with the right people as well. Not just surround yourself with people. You can go to a webinar or a seminar without talking to people, right? So you're surrounded with people, with right or positive people, but you're not talking with them. What the hell? What's wrong with that, right? So you also need to talk with the right people. And right now, you can do that with a lot of ways. You can do social media, right? You can maybe you can set a Zoom call or Skype call or whatever you are using, Google Hangouts, right? And even with the chat or with a message, right? And people would say that that's meaningless when you chat or text someone, right? I think there's nothing wrong with the tool. It's what we need to focus on is how we communicate and how we can create that meaningful connection on whatever resources we have right now. Even though you have the greatest gadgets of all, but you don't know how to communicate and talk with the right people, that's meaningless. All right? So that's it. Next one, we're going to talk about, which is I'm really, really passionate about, the importance of reframing the mind. So, like what I've said previously in the intro, how to deal with anxiety and overthinking and how to keep your sanity with this crisis, it's pretty much connected with this third one, with this third topic that I'm going to talk about, which is the importance of reframing the mind. I always saying to my mentees when I'm doing a workshop, when I'm facilitating webinar, that reframing your mind is really important, especially for creatives who are really introvert, right? If you like to talk more or be heard as an authority of your niche or as authority of your industry, you have to reframe your mind. So let's say, for example, you want to have a talk or have a workshop, but you're too shy to talk about, too afraid to talk about something that you're really passionate at. So one thing that I'm really sure that is really working for me is to change the perspective of being afraid into being excited, right? So if you're feeling afraid right now, tell to yourself that I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. Tell that 3 times and you'll be fine. And it's really, really powerful, I guess, and gave me the boost, the motivation to be excited about my passion, to be excited of the unknown, to be excited of the dark path, or you know what I mean. Like let's say you're entering a door that you don't know what's inside, right? So you're afraid, right? And but if you change that or reframe your mind into more positive ways, dude, it changed the game. I'll tell you, absolutely changed the game, and it blew my mind when I found that. And I'm really passionate about that, and I'm really, really stoked to share that here in this episode of the podcast as well. So yeah, I think that gives you some meaningful perspective on how to deal with anxiety and overthinking, how to keep your sanity with the economic crisis happening right now as a creative, and you also gain the learnings and the knowledge and the experience of the importance of reframing your mind, which I really, really hope that you find really valuable. All right. So we're now on the last part. So the last part is why we're now entering the essentialist era. I think I'll take this, I'll stole this essentialist era as the title for this podcast, which I think might be really interesting. So the essentialist era, right? So it's pretty, it's pretty new for some of you, for all of you guys. Or if not, maybe you're pretty much listening to the podcast, which is really great. Thank you for that. And basically, essentialism is, I really like to explain that as having a principle of less but better, right? So for example, less talk, better action, right? Less bullshit, better results. So it's really, it's really a value bump when I try to implement that or integrate to my life, and this to designing my life professionally, personally, and it's really changed my perspective and my ideas. Okay, and going back, why we're now entering the essentialist era, I'll give you some perspective about it, and kinda some, maybe I don't know if you can call it a history or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know if you know that we are not in the information age already, right? So boom, you don't know that? That's great. Now you know. We are not in the information era already. We are exiting on that way before, right? So after the information era, for me, we entered the misinformation era, right? So all of this fake news, fake stuff, right? And fake it until you make it, right? Which I kind of hate, right? So maybe you need to do it and work on it until you make it. So that's more I like it. And then again, we've entered the information era and then exit and enter into misinformation era, and then now this one, the era of essentialism, right? So we are now on the essentialist era. Why? So just observe, right, guys? So I'm not saying that having a lot of informations in your face, right, it's bad, right? So as long as it helps, or it helps your life, or it helps you grow, that's not bad, right? But sometimes it's kind of overwhelming for most of us, right? It's overwhelming, right? To be honest, it's overwhelming. And because of that that shift, right? In one click we have this information, and then in one click we have this 10,000 times information and we don't know now what to focus on, or we don't know what's the right path, we don't know what's the right journey, we don't know what's the right answer because of those 10,000 times, right? So remember that we can't handle a lot of information in our brain, right? So psychologically speaking. So that's why I think there's a need now to be more essentialist. We are now going back to fundamentals, or the basics. If you heard in the news, WHO said that you have to wash your hands, right? That's super basic that most of people forgot, right? Because of this misinformation eras, right? So we need to analyze a lot of data, analyze of a lot of informations that sometimes an average human being don't cope up, which is sucks. So with that being said, essentialism now is more important, and for me it's necessary to have this in mind, that to become an essentialist in a way that can make you grow more, right? In a way that can make you be more productive, in a way that can make you create more meaningful works, right? And one thing that I've always saying to my mentees is to have the ability to discern, right? So as an essentialist, you have to have the ability to discern. So discerning is for me, it's pretty a skills now. with all these datas and informations, we tend to forget the most important things, that we are just human beings. We feel emotion, we long for connections, we want to talk to human beings as well, right? We work with human beings, we work with people that we love, we work with people that we know. Even though there's an AI or these new technologies, the future of work is always collaboration. All right, so I hope that makes sense and give you some valuable insights about this new era that we are entering right now. I just hope after this COVID or this virus, there's a lot of more positive notions about creating better result or creating better lives for not only for ourselves but for the people who surround us and for the people who support us. All right, so that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you have any questions, if you have any clarifications about this topic or about these topics, just DM me on Instagram or Facebook. I always reply or respond to any email or any message that I've received. So I think my listeners knows that, my subscriber, my friends, and yeah, let's talk soon and have a great and safe day or night or afternoon wherever you are right now. So thank you guys again. Stay awesome. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening, especially for all the supporters who contribute monetarily, and I just want to let you know that it really means the world to me. With that being said, there are a ton of people asking me on how to support this podcast, so here's how. Number one is you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, so in that way you can help me to reach more people and make the podcast more discoverable within the ecosystem. Second one is you can take a screenshot of this podcast and share to your friends, colleagues, or to anyone that might be interested in this kind of content. Third one is you can support the podcast monetarily by visiting jaychristteves.com/donate. That's jaychristteves.com/donate or patreon.com/TDLS. And the last one is by listening to all the podcast episode. However, if you support my message, that's more than enough and it means the world to me. So thank you so much.